Hey, I'm Ben Silverio.
And I'm Ansel Burch.
And it's time to party.
Today's episode was recorded on October 27th, 2022 in Chicago, Illinois. We are not doctors. We don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly.
Probably like a daytime show mixed with a pop song from the 60s.
Yeah. What up, party people? Welcome back to Time to Party, where everything's made up and the point of... Yes, where beautiful. Everything is made up and the points don't matter. We are here once again to talk about some time travel shenanigans.
That's damn right.
That's is that a better fit for our gravestone? That's less letter count.
Less, yeah.
Right?
That's we could probably get it snappier, but that's pretty good.
We're workshopping it.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. We have some time considering neither of us nor the podcast is dead yet.
Yeah, we got loads of time.
Loads of time. And imagine if we had a time machine.
Man, if only.
If only.
I think the real expense will be installing an MP3 player and speakers into the headstone so that people can listen to the podcast when they visit it.
We'll either be the talk of the town or the most annoying neighbors in the graveyard.
Yeah. That's the real trick, is to get the podcast's headstone put next to a significant member of the local community.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Yeah, a former mayor.
Viscount.
Like a newspaper baron.
But yes, if you don't know what we're talking about when it comes to Meet Cute, here's what our good friends at IMDb tell us. What would you do if you could travel to your loved one's past, heal their traumas, fix their problems, and change them into the perfect partner? Again, that's not really a synopsis.
No. It also doesn't really apply to this film.
It's not what this film is about.
Like, referring to Gary as Sheila's loved one is a stretch.
Yes.
Like a lot.
So, why don't we start here? Ansel, do you know what a meet cute is?
I do, but I think we should say it anyway.
Yeah. So, in film and television, a meet cute is a scene in which the two people who will form a future romantic couple meet for the first time, typically under unusual, humorous, or cute circumstances. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite explanations of a meet cute comes from the movie The Holiday.
I had a feeling. I was like, if you hadn't said it, I was gonna. Because, it's so perfect in that movie.
It's so perfect in that movie. I fucking love that movie.
It's a very good movie.
It's a very good movie. The score is very underrated.
Stunning.
Oh, just gorgeous. And I know it's very meta because, scores play a role in the movie because Jack Black is a composer.
One of Jack Black's best roles, I would say.
Absolutely. He should have gotten more roles like this afterwards, and then he didn't for some reason.
He's too busy being Jack Black.
He's too busy being Jack Black, When the D calls.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite scene in the movie is when they're walking through the Blockbuster. Because I'm just like, A, I can't do that anymore.
Yep.
But B, just walking through the aisles of Blockbuster, singing the scores.
Doing the scores, yep.
Eli Wallach, he plays Arthur Abbott.
Yes.
The old Hollywood writer. And he explains to Kate Winslet's character, what a meet cute is.
Well, this was some meet cute.
Sorry?
It's how two characters meet in a movie. Say a man and a woman both need something to sleep in.
Uh-huh.
And they both go to the same men's pajama department.
Right.
And the man says to the salesman, I just need bottoms. The woman says, I just need a top. They look at each other, and that's the meet cute.
Oh, I see.
So go watch The Holiday after you watch Meet Cute.
Okay, so a meet cute is when the romantic leads meet in a strange or humorous way.
Yes.
In a cute way. When they meet cutely.
I mean, It Happened One Night, when the newspaper reporter comes across the princess who's trying to escape the public eye. Another example of a meet cute is when Niles Crane meets Daphne Moon for the first time.
Oh, good. Yes.
You're Daphne?
I was thinking of Bringing Up Baby, the scene with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn on the golf course.
Yes. Isn't that the one that Arthur references in The Holiday?
Oh, it might be. Maybe that's why it came immediately to mind.
Because he definitely brings up Cary Grant.
I mean, as well you should.
Yes.
Cary Grant and Hepburn were of that era when, like, the meet cute was part of the formula that had to be recognized.
Yes.
Like, during that era, there was so much importance placed on writing the script to formula.
Absolutely. So that you can get that glamour shot of your heroine, like...
Exactly.
Now it's become such a trope that, filmmakers and storytellers play off it.
Yeah.
500 Days of Summer is one of my favorite, like, subversions of the trope. Because, a lot of people do not realize that Tom, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, is the antagonist.
Right.
Not the protagonist.
Which Joseph Gordon-Levitt would find very
Absolutely.
amusing. Yeah.
No, he said it before.
He does find very amusing, I should say.
He's definitely spoken out about the people who've talked about this movie and been like, nah, you're way off.
Yeah. No.
You're like, clearly you didn't get it.
Did you watch the movie?
Yes. So, but even from Tom's point of view, when he meets Summer, you get that glamorous, like, dream girl, like, view until later in the movie when she breaks his heart, and then all of those things are no longer cute. I'm sure there are a ton of other,
Great examples.
great examples of
What do you
this,
think
but-
about the example from this movie? Does this, I mean, the first one is, sure, a meet cute.
Absolutely.
But
But it's not the first one.
it's not the first one, yeah.
What? She says they've been doing this for a week.
It's a week when we do get to see the first one in a flashback, which is even more of a, like, okay, so not only are we doing time travel, but now we're doing flashbacks in our time travel. But yeah, like, even the first one is not actually a meet cute.
Yes.
Although I suppose if being the first time in the movie that we see them, it still counts.
True.
Like, that's
the
still
first time for the viewer,
formulaically, yeah.
But I think that's partially what captivates a person to enter the story, right? Like, so the whole idea of this movie is Kaley Cuoco's character Sheila meets Peter Davidson's character Gary in a bar, but then slowly over the course of their first date, quote unquote, she reveals that she's a time traveler. And that first scene, which you can prominently see in the trailer, is what draws you in.
Yeah.
It's that variation on the meet cute where it's like, oh, we've actually done this a bunch.
I think the other thing that I thought was really interesting in subverting the meet cute trope is that we are still getting a meet cute because it's a question of which version of Sheila is she presenting.
Yes. And then
And
eventually,
then which version of Gary are we
Exactly.
getting? Yeah. There's still that element of, like, the first introduction of what this character is going to be like in this iteration.
yes. And it just so happens for Sheila, she can take an educated guess and be like, yeah, well, Gary's going to be
Yeah,
this
Gary's
way.
going to be Gary, yeah. Yeah, because first she's trying to manipulate herself, and then she tries to manipulate him.
Ooh, manipulation. Mm-hmm. And that's really what the IMDb description talks about, right? In a way, it's just a different form of manipulation.
Absolutely.
And, okay, so first, very brief tangent. I've been working on this playlist called Dobler or Dahmer. It is...
Okay.
It is based on the How I Met Your Mother gag of being a Dobler or a Dahmer to your prospective partner. If the feelings are reciprocated by both parties, then when you do something cute like a grand gesture, you're a Dobler, standing outside the window with the boombox. If they're not reciprocated, then it's creepy, and you're
a Dahmer. Interesting.
So the playlist that I've been making, it features songs that or love songs that are very sweet, if you're in the right mindset. Because otherwise, they're real creepy. For example, I Will Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Invisible by Clay Aiken.
Yep.
I mean, that was the first one that I put on the list. Because, like, if you really listen to the lyrics, it's just like, oh, if you were invisible, you'd watch me in your room? What? Other ones are I Won't Give Up by Jason Mraz.
Yep.
Fallen for You by Colby Kaley.
Sure.
Can't Help Falling in Love. Specifically the Ingrid Michaelson cover, but
Okay.
really,
It's got the right vibe. I can see that.
Father Figure by George Michael.
I don't think I know that one.
You're Beautiful by James Blunt. Mm-hmm. I Will Follow Him by Peggy March.
That was one of the first ones I thought of.
Escape by Enrique Iglesias.
Uh-huh.
Your Body is a Wonderland by John Mayer.
Oh, God, it's never occurred to me. But yeah, that could go very wrong.
Save the Last Dance for Me, Michael Bublé. There's a lot more, but you know, it's just the idea of if both parties mutually have affection for each other, this could be super cute that you're traveling back in time to relive our first date over and over again.
Yeah.
But because Sheila is manipulating the situation each time, more so as the movie goes on,
Yeah.
it's not that cute anymore.
Well, and it's also really interesting. I mean, we will probably get more into this, but hey, we're in the review. Might as well.
Yes.
What is it that she's so worried about the next day having?
Well, I mean, I wasn't planning to get into this dark aspect of the movie this early in the episode, but part of Sheila's character that we come to find is that she was going to commit suicide.
Right.
Until she got her nails done and found the time machine, thanks to June. So really, I think for her, obviously, I can't really speak for someone who's suicidal, you know, but to me, it seems like for her, if things go past where they were at this point, they'll just get bad again. You know, she kind of expresses that in like the denouement, you know,
yeah,
where she wants to jump off the bridge anyway.
right.
You know, since it seems like Gary knows the truth about Sheila, you know, and but that first date was so perfect that she'd rather live in that moment for literally a
she
year.
froze time. Yeah,
is
what she says.
Right. She'd rather do that than have herself be exposed to the love of her life as who she really is,
and have a second date.
Yeah, exactly. It's tragic, you know.
Truly. Well, and we see her kill herself.
I mean,
over and over
literally.
and over
Yeah,
and
yeah,
over
yeah.
again. Yeah, like she knew Sheila, murders old Sheila, and puts her in the trunk of the car every time.
Yes. Kaley Cuoco's delivery of like every reveal is so matter of fact that you think it's a joke,
And then you see it.
and then you see it.
You're like, oh. So I'm a little worried about Sheila being a sociopath.
Sure.
I'm a lot worried about Sheila being a sociopath. But yeah, like she literally kills that version of herself every time she does this.
Yes.
And so I wonder if part of it is that Sheila is presenting a version of herself that she doesn't think she can sustain. Like, this isn't me.
Right.
I killed me. This is an act I'm doing for this one night. Yeah, I don't know. Just curious.
It's hard to say, you know, considering I don't have the same experience as Sheila to really shed light into what she's thinking in the moment. But, you know, it's like we really see how sad she truly is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of like a Dobler Dahmer moment, you know, where like she's saying to herself that what she's doing is cute, you know, but like you said, she might be a little bit of a sociopath. So it could go either way. And for Gary, by the end, he's into it, you know.
Apparently, yeah.
Apparently, spoiler alert. But do you buy that? Is that has Gary been so manipulated that he's feeling these feelings, or is he legitimately in love with Sheila by the end, do you think?
That is a very good question. I think that by the end of the movie, because he's only had the amount of time in the most recent iteration.
Yes. Because he doesn't know that she went back and completely changed his childhood.
Yeah.
And then went back and redid everything.
And then undid. That I think as far as we left it, he did still see a dead body.
Yeah.
On the doorstep as a kid, which that's an interesting choice.
And a prostitute eating pizza.
And a prostitute eating pizza, which, I mean...
Tatiana.
Yeah. I mean, you could have worse things happen than, like, a rando eating pizza on your front porch.
It's true. Like the dead body.
like a dead body. Also, Sheila, again, murdering people.
Herself. Because she was Uncle Charlie.
That's right. She murders Uncle Charlie, which is another iteration
So really,
of herself.
she only murders herself.
Only kills herself, yeah. Which does tell us it's not a time cop situation.
Right. And it's not really like a paradoxal situation, since she gets close enough to kill herself each time without anything happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack about the themes presented in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think for me, it's like a Twilight Zone episode in that way.
Okay.
In that it's like, okay, we started with this concept of, okay, what if you could go back and redo the perfect date? Mm-hmm. A, would you want to do it just for funsies? B, would you do it to try to make it better? And C, would you do it to try to fix something about the person that you're dating or that you have started to date? And if that's the extent of the thought experiment, great. Then they totally achieved that. We saw all three of those iterations.
Yes.
We saw the ramifications of it. We saw what happens if the person decides to turn the script on you. Mm-hmm. We get all of that. And through it, we get an exploration of their childhoods and what made them who they are in a very cursory, distant sort of way.
Yes.
But yeah, we don't get anything deeper into their motivations or psyche. We don't understand why Sheila even feels the way she does.
Right.
Like, there is no information as to what her current situation is that she feels compelled toward suicide.
Does that make it work better or worse?
I don't know. Like, we don't know what Sheila does. Mm-hmm. Sheila doesn't know what she does.
Yeah.
Gary is a graphic designer. The only way that affects the plot is that he's doodling on a coaster when we meet him. So, like, do they just have these jobs so that we don't ask questions about what these people do for a living? Because, like, they have no impact on the plot.
It doesn't have any impact on the plot because they meet after hours. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not, like, we don't have to worry about them having to go to their jobs.
Yeah.
Because it all happens in one night.
We don't see their apartments.
Nope.
We don't see...
Although we find out where Sheila used to live.
Yeah. We see Sheila's childhood apartment. And we see Gary's childhood home.
Yes.
Just the outside, but we
Yes.
do see it. So yeah, lots of questions about, like, how much the current version of them matters, especially considering how much it shifts over the course of the thing.
Right.
Like, when Gary changes due to her fucking with his childhood,
Yes.
That version of Gary is not significantly different in any way other than
Has a different job.
his different job, different attitude, and different outfit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like there's the story is far more about the concept than it is about the character.
Yeah.
And I think that is my finally walking all the way around the tree to get back to why I think it's a Twilight Zone episode.
Got you. Yeah, it is very interesting how it explores all of these intricacies of dating and relationships and stuff, because, you know, I think the message at the end is that relationships...
It's okay for things to be messy.
There it is. It's okay for things to be messy sometimes. That's exactly what it is. You know, like, you could be dating so long that things feel repetitive, you know, and it happens. And
you can try to fix people.
Exactly. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes you're just hitting a round peg in a square hole, you know, and it's okay.
In an alarming fashion.
Yeah. Oh, God.
The representations of overwhelm in this movie were particularly effective.
Absolutely. And, you know, I feel like this script is incredibly strong. You know, like, that's part of what makes this work. The script was written by Noga Punelli. I probably butchered their name. But it was featured on the 2018 Blacklist. So it was considered one of the best unproduced scripts of that year. And, you know, I could see why this movie in particular finally got made. You know, it's very interesting. But the stars, I think, are really what got it made. Because I think, as we were alluding to, Kaley Cuoco is a phenomenal actress.
Really, truly, such range.
Yes, and even though I may not like him, I'm not a fan of Pete Davidson's by any stretch. I think he's too douchey and broy and kind of annoying, and has a very punchable face. Don't actually punch him in the face.
Yeah, please don't.
I don't advocate for violence often. But yeah, just don't go punching Pete Davidson in the face unless he's into it, I guess. But I will give credit where credit is due. This is the third movie that I've seen him in where he's just delivered this phenomenally endearing performance. The first one was Big Time Adolescence, which is a movie on Hulu that everybody should watch. It's so good. And it really talks about coming of age in a very modern sense. It's probably not a great sign that I kind of related to his character in that movie, but, like, I don't know. It's so good. Everyone should totally watch that. But then his other movie, The King of Staten Island, is also an incredibly poignant drama while still being funny, you know, because like obviously his movies are going to have some humor in them. But King of Staten Island was an Apatow movie, and Apatow's not afraid to mix comedy and drama.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is his most effective mixing of that.
Well, and I think Apatow has a very similar approach to what this movie did, which is the like laughing until it becomes sad.
Yes.
You laugh at the sad thing until you realize how sad it is.
Yes, and Sheila even has that moment where she's talking about her dad.
Yep.
You know, where he's a traveling alcoholic and goes to all the different bars, and she plays it off like a joke until she doesn't, and then realizes that's actually really sad.
And she's told that joke at that point like 300 times in a row.
Exactly. It's almost like comedy itself, where a lot of these things used to be funny, but like clearly they're not funny anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to say it's a lesser example, but a different example. The Critic used to have a lot of fat jokes.
Oh, okay.
Just like unrepentant fat shaming of Jay Sherman and his son Marty, and like it's not a good look today.
Yeah.
But back then, people were laughing at all that stuff. Like Frasier had it too when Daphne was pregnant, and they made all those jokes.
Sure, yeah.
But even Frasier played it off in a way that was like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't make fun of someone's weight like that." You know?
Yeah.
The pig can dish it out, but it can't take it.
Oh God.
The refrigerator pig.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, I think that's true of a lot of forms of comedy over the years. Like, as we become more sensitive to, not wanting to fuck with people,
Right.
and more aware culturally of, the importance of punching up instead of down.
Yes.
And, all of that is evolutionary. And I think we're seeing that happen in the course of the movie. Is we're seeing the evolution of Sheila's awareness of, like, first it was a thing she said offhanded, then it became part of her script,
Yes.
and now she's like, ah, shit, well, it was funny that one time.
Yeah.
Which is especially interesting when you think about it as a movie that was executive produced by Pete Davidson,
Right.
who has gotten in trouble for exactly that sort of
That's very true. Yes. Earlier we were trying to figure out why we dislike Pete Davidson, like we as a society.
Why societally are we mad at Pete Davidson?
Yes. And I mean, when it comes down to things to be mad at entertainers for, his stuff is just the basics.
Yeah.
The comics have been dealing with that since the dawn of comedy.
Yeah, he's not even Chappelle at this point.
Exactly.
Like, this is pretty tame, jokes that didn't land territory.
And I mean, in that way, Pete David, I don't want to say he's harmless, because words are important.
Yeah.
And they matter and all that stuff. But like when you look at his posse, him and John Mulaney.
Oh yeah.
Like John Mulaney, who was like the squeaky clean dude.
I don't know that John Mulaney was ever squeaky clean.
I mean, compared to some of the other comics that were his contemporaries.
Sure.
But also, he he's in rehab.
Yeah.
Right? Or has been.
Has been recently,
Yes.
at least.
He has dealt with demons as well as Pete Davidson, and I'm sure that's why they connect, right? But they seem like the more, I don't want to say wholesome, because neither of them are wholesome. Mm-hmm. But they lean towards more of that than some of their peers, right? Is that accurate?
I think so, at least in the broad scope. I will say I think it's very interesting that John Mulaney, like, he talks about his troubles with substance abuse, and
Yes.
he talks about his upbringing, and Pete Davidson his dad died in 9/11 as a
Right.
firefighter, and he's made material out of that.
I mean, King of Staten Island is all about that.
Is all about that, yeah. So I think it's interesting that the two of them display those things about themselves in addition to doing material that might otherwise not have been 100% above board. Mm-hmm. I think about the routine that Mulaney did, where he talked about not being allowed to put a certain word into his award show script because it was as offensive as the N-word, which the reference is correct. He's right. It's not as offensive.
Yes.
And the joke about, well, you're saying one word and you won't even say what the other word is. That's the more offensive word. Mm-hmm. He's very accurate about that. However, he is still the meat of the joke is still, well, I wanted to use this other word that is othering to a group of people.
Sure.
And that is the center of this controversy.
Yes.
So he's telling a joke about how he's offensive, but the joke isn't about the thing that he did. It's about the thing the other person did in
Right.
response. So I somehow that is contributive to this cleaner appearance.
Because, like, sure, John Mulaney may or may not have cheated on his partner. I mean, he did.
He did, sure.
And we as a society have come to, I don't want to say accept it, but overlook it more often than someone like Louis C.K.,
sure.
you know, who has done actual bad shit. But it's a spectrum,
Yeah.
you know. Louis C.K. is on a different level than Aziz Ansari,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was Aziz who I first heard say that whole thing is a spectrum, you know. But it's just interesting that Pete Davidson is more on the Aziz side of the spectrum, you know, considering his persona that he portrays.
Yeah.
But also, that's part of the act, right?
That's part of the act.
Like,
Well, and I was reading something about the deal with the senator, because he said the thing about the senator and his eye patch, and then he had to make an apology on air with the senator on stage next to him. So, like, they spent time together, they were in rehearsal together, he did the thing on screen together, and then later on walked it back in one of his comedy specials. And the senator, I think, did a really good job of handling it by saying, well, I mean, sure, he's a comedian. He's got to do stuff like that. And I would much rather believe in the person I met and spent time with than the guy in that comedy special.
absolutely.
So I think part of it is that, like, he's playing a character. And that part of that character is, I've got to, like, dance on the line all the time. And sometimes I'm going to dance a little too close or a little too far over.
I've always been fascinated by this dual persona business because, obviously, as you know, I'm a fan of professional wrestling. And for the most part, professional wrestlers play themselves but turned up to 11. So it's like they themselves are a character. So where does the character end and the person begin? Burlesque. A lot of our friends are in burlesque and have stage names with various different personas depending on the acts that they're doing. But where does I'm sorry for not kayfabing your name in this conversation, but where does Stella Cheeks end and Alexis Mouche begin? And I always jokingly say that Stella hates musicals, but Alexis loves them.
Yeah.
I've legitimately wanted to have this conversation, like, in some sort of public forum, and by public I mean probably on a podcast that, you know, however many people listen to. But, like, I always find this very interesting
That would be a really good podcast episode.
because it totally applies to comedians in this sense, and I'm sure if I met Pete Davidson, we'd have a lot in common and could discuss stuff or
he
not.
is from Staten Island. I don't know.
That's why I say or not. But, like, to bring back what I was saying about the Banshees of Inisherin, part of what Colin Farrell's character doesn't understand is that Brendan Gleeson's character just outgrew him and didn't need him in his life anymore. And he was so serious about it that he kind of took it to an extreme. But it's just sometimes people grow and don't need to take all the baggage with them from before.
Sure.
You know, and so I may get along with Pete Davidson and I may not in real life.
Yeah.
But his character, I still don't like.
Yep. Well, and it's what made him such a good blackguard in the Suicide Squad.
Absolutely,
Like,
you love to see him die.
Yeah, and it was he
Spoiler
immediately
alert for the
seemed
Suicide
for the first 5 minutes of Suicide Squad. But yeah, I mean, it felt in keeping with Pete Davidson
Absolutely.
to be the guy who sold them out from the top.
Oh yeah, James Gunn was so spot on by casting Pete Davidson in that part. And James Gunn's a genius.
Good, such perfect casting.
Well,
and then to get Nathan Fillion in the role of like this
TDK,
guy
yeah.
who seems cool and then is completely undercut by his own powers. So perfect. I mean, we've seen it before in Captain Hammer, and thank you again, Nathan Fillion.
And I mean, short tangent, but I'm so glad that Warner Brothers tapped James Gunn to be one half of the leads for DC films. Like, he is going to be one of the principal architects of the new DC universe, because it's no longer the DCEU. Mm-hmm. The DC Extended Universe is dead. Long live the DC universe.
Some semantic gymnastics that we've gone through, but here we are.
This past week, writing all about it has just been
I bet,
so
yeah.
fun.
The Black Adam coverage has been interesting.
Oh man,
I haven't gotten to see it yet. I'm actually interested to see it.
It's fine.
I'm not going to say excited to see it, but I'm interested to see it.
Shazam and Black Adam are two sides of the same coin, which is why it would have made much more sense to introduce Black Adam in Shazam first.
I thought that's what they were gonna do.
Yeah, and then when they didn't do it, I'm just like, really though? But
Come on, Dwayne.
Yeah, he could have at least put the ego aside for a second and appeared in a cameo, you know?
Sure.
But he was just like, no, Black Adam should have his own introduction, you know, from what I understand anyway. But the way I've been describing it is Shazam is like your first superhero movie. You watch it as a kid as like an introduction to the genre, and it's a lot of fun and kind of scary and is a good kids movie.
Sure.
Black Adam is what you watch after grade school. You know, now you're at the beginning of high school, more into like violence and fast and hard, and you know, you're in your punk rock phase and shit like that. Black Adam goes a little bit harder, you know, but it's still the same universe. You know, it's like you're jumping from pop punk to, you know, hardcore college basement punk rock, you know? Same coin, but a little different.
Yeah, the costumes are darker.
Yeah, exactly. There it is.
It's the same movie, but the costumes are darker. Yeah.
It's just funny because when I was trying to say that Black Adam targets a younger audience, Dave and Warwick thought I meant like kids. And I'm like, no, it's more like teens. And they're like, well, that's not younger. I'm like, they're younger than me.
Younger than me, yeah.
But, you know...
I don't think the Avengers are targeted at that audience.
No, exactly. I mean, the Avengers are a much broader audience. The Suicide Squad is not.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn, the animated series, is not.
Yeah.
But Harley Quinn, the animated series, is one of the best things out there right now.
So good.
Yes.
So good.
And, you know, Kaley Cuoco kind of carries that into this quote-unquote rom-com. How do you feel about the time travel mechanism in Meet Cute?
I will be honest with you, and I love it. I think it's phenomenal. Anytime,
it's very hot tub time machine.
It's very hot tub time machine, and I love a time machine that otherwise doesn't look like a time machine.
Yes.
You know, and this is true of the hot tub. This is true of the DeLorean. This is true of the TARDIS. So many time machines are a thing that otherwise doesn't stand out, and therefore is a good time machine. And what I love about this one is that, like, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's not out in a public space. It doesn't go anywhere. No one's gonna see it.
It's also much easier to use than you realize, because it's just a turn of the dial to make you go to the future.
Yeah, apparently.
That June didn't figure out until that point.
And, well, and that's if you think it's true.
Oh, right. She just maybe didn't tell Gary and Sheila until they needed to know.
Did she actually do it? Did Gary go to the future?
Oh, interesting.
I don't think
You
Gary
think he was
went
just
to
bluffing?
I think he was bluffing. I think that was Gary trying to get out of this situation, and it was a leap of faith. Because otherwise we would have seen June do that.
Fair.
Like, we never, in the course of the movie, as far as I recall, see June manipulate the controls on the time machine at all.
Correct. Also, our drinking and smoking rules go hard on their own, but if you continue to watch the movie during the credits,
yes,
it goes even harder.
Get a little coda. the power hour of the credits for this movie.
When I hit that point, I'm just like, fuck, these rules are gonna get wild.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but not even in that do we see future. It's all past.
I don't know that you can. At least that was my read on that last bit, is that is Gary trying to reach Sheila when she is at her most vulnerable, most strung out, most distraught. And the only way he can do that is to assure her, because he's got to break her out of this like loop.
Yes.
And the future is so terrifying. Tomorrow is so terrifying to her.
Even when it's happening in a few hours.
Yeah.
You know, it's right there. You're right there.
You are on the cusp of tomorrow.
Yes.
The edge of tomorrow, if you will, Mr. Cruz. And all that is holding her back is her own terror.
Right.
And arguably the repercussions of her own actions, i.e. the dead body that is definitely in her trunk.
Sure.
So he has to do something to break her out of that, and the only thing he's got available to her is some assurance that the future is good.
Yeah, and you know, a leap of faith is required for a relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you don't know how it's going to work out, and this is kind of the metaphor for that, since the entire movie is like a metaphor for a relationship. Mm-hmm. Right? So,
well, and it's a relationship up to that point with no faith.
Yes.
She's had this one perfect night. She wants to repeat it.
Yes. So when she finally, I mean, leap of faith is probably the wrong words for this specific situation. But
wait, hold on. I just had a terrible moment of realization.
Uh-oh.
So Sheila's just been on the date
Yes.
when she goes to June's parlor for the first time.
No. She goes to June's parlor for the first time because she wants to have her nails look nice when she commits suicide.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't meet Gary until she goes into the time machine and decides to get a drink, and then he's there at the bar.
Okay, you're right. Okay, thank you. I had forgotten the order of operations there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're so mixed up.
Well, and so the first time that she goes back in time, it is a meet cute.
Yes, correct. Off screen.
She has gone through an entire day in the past.
Yes.
And is like, well, I guess I'm going to go get a drink, and then meets Gary.
Right.
And then replays that. Okay.
Yeah, so the time travel mechanism is very cool. For those reasons that you said, I agree. Mm-hmm. When does she sleep?
And that is a very good question.
Because could this whole thing be affected by the fact that
she
she's
has
not
slept
sleeping?
in a year.
She's just repeating this day over and over again
That's true.
without actual sleep. Could that be a factor?
Or is she sleeping during the day?
I mean, that's possible too.
Because, like, it looks like morning when she shows up at June's parlor.
Yes.
So maybe, and she's just gotten a coffee when she gets run over by herself.
Right.
Which, granted, if she's like me, that could be any time of day.
Right.
But yeah, so maybe there's she knows she's got a date now. So she sleeps during the day in preparation for going to meet Gary. I don't know. Maybe. That's a thought.
Yes.
Because you're right. Otherwise, she hasn't slept in over a year.
Yeah,
and
that'll
do stuff to you.
Take tolls on your brain.
I've never gone a year, but I've had some run-ins with
Right. I mean, I used to pull all-nighters frequently in college, you know?
Yep. Old man sleep deprivation will do stuff to you.
But when the library is open for 24 hours and there's a Taco Bell in there, you know, stuff goes down. My other thought was that Gary was so adamant about getting to the other side of the bridge. He really wanted Sheila to come out on the other side. You know,
Yeah, the bridge was a beautiful metaphor.
yes, absolutely. Until you realize that the bridge is from New York to New Jersey.
Oh no!
So like,
Wait, does Gary live in New Jersey?
no, but like, don't the bridges like they're in Manhattan, right? Depending on what bridge they're taking, they could be going to New Jersey.
Hilarious as this joke is, unfortunately, that is the Manhattan Bridge. Anyway,
The symbolism of getting to the other side of this bridge, regardless of where it's going, is still really solid. Like,
Yeah.
the fear she has of going past the point where she was going to kill herself and into the future, made manifest in this bridge is
Very well.
I mean,
done.
it's very I'm a little teapot writing, but I'm not
Sure.
mad at it.
right. I mean, if it's not Baroque, don't fix it. So before I ask our usual final question, I have another question.
Oh, yeah?
Is Sheila a Dobler or a Dahmer?
Oh, she's absolutely a Well, I don't know. I think he's into it enough at the outset that it's a Dobler.
Yeah?
Like, she comes up to him at the bar. He's down. Like,
So there is enough consent and endearment
I think it
on her
becomes a
part.
Dahmer
somewhere in the middle.
when she starts fucking with his history. Because when she decides she's going to fix him before they've even met, technically, in his mind, that's where we get into this, like,
But then he
hairy
does the
space.
same thing.
He does. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's an argument where either of them make it out of this movie as good guys all around.
Is the answer that New Yorkers suck?
I think so. But I think it's really interesting that, like, and I think this was one of the more ham-fisted bits of the movie, the way that she brought up the cable guy a couple times,
Oh, yeah.
such that when he showed up, he was just fulfilling that existing prophecy.
So
Because time is circular.
yes. Timey-wimey.
It got it's so timey-wimey how it. But yeah, there was the one cable guy who was so nice to her.
Yeah.
She didn't tell us anything else about it.
No.
Didn't tell us what he looked like. Didn't tell us what impact it was. Just randomly, oh yeah, there was this cable guy who was so nice to me. Not even like, did he come back or frequently or actually fix the cable?
Right.
Yeah, none of that. We don't get anything. There's no substance to that. Just that it happened.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, so then I guess that leads us to our final question. Was Meet Cute worth your time?
Meet Cute was absolutely worth my time, especially if you take it at its value, right?
Yes.
So it's a 90-minute exploration of this hypothetical through a sci-fi lens.
Right.
And I think that in many ways is my shit. I'm
Yes.
absolutely all about that and very excited to interrogate it at any opportunity. So I think on its own merits, it's absolutely worth your time. Are you going to have more questions? Absolutely. Does it leave some parts by the wayside that didn't serve it? Completely. But is it worth your time? Yeah, I think it's very much worth your time.
Yeah, you know, I think this is a very good date movie because it gives you and your date a lot to talk about at dinner afterwards, right?
And it's not
Also-
the usual date questions of like, what are you hoping for your future?
Yeah.
Because neither of these people ever address that.
No.
There is no point where we ever know what they wanted, what their deal is, where they come, like, all of that is left on the chopping block because it didn't serve the narrative.
Right. They just take that, again, I say leap of faith, but maybe not the best choice of words. But they take that leap of faith together at the end into uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like many relationships. I agree. This movie had a lot against it for me going into it. Mm-hmm. Mostly because of Pete Davidson, and I don't care for his work often. But I guess now that there's been 3 things that I've really enjoyed his performances in, I don't think I can say that anymore.
Yeah, we might be okay with Pete Davidson after all.
I mean, at least in his dramatic acting. Maybe not his stand-up, but, his movies have been top-notch for me. Because, again, watch Big Time Adolescence.
Watch next week. He's going to do something awful, and I'm going to have to put a thing in the bumper.
Pete Davidson showed up at the corporate headquarters of Skechers and was escorted out.
Oh, my God. Oh, so good. That's going to be such a dated reference when you hear it. Hey, people of the future. That just happened for us, so give a little grace.
Hey, remember when Kanye did this? Oh,
my God. I will say, and this is neither here nor there, but I think it's very interesting how much importance we put on calling people by their preferred names.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Except for Ye.
Honestly, I did not know that his new preferred name was Ye until the Skechers thing.
Nor should you have. Why? Who gives a single fuck about what that guy wants, does, or But it is very interesting to me the politics of that, like, naming.
Sure.
and the difference between someone like him doing it and someone like Elliot Page.
Right.
This is a change of identity. This person is leaving behind.
But, like, on the same token,
their dead name.
We, as a society, were okay with Puff Daddy changing to P. Diddy.
Well, yeah, and
changing to Diddy.
I think that's exactly it, though. Is this a matter of Ye changing identity, or is it a kayfabe thing like Diddy did, where I don't think he ever stopped being, or stopped utilizing his own names in private, but his performance name was changing, similar to the way that Snoop went by Snoop Lion for a hot second there.
Ah, yes.
Because
it's like, I may not like Ezra Miller, but I'm going to respect the pronouns that they prefer.
Sure. Because that's their identity.
Right. But Kanye West changing creative direction for who they portray as a character. It's almost like a wrestler that I like is named Jon Moxley. Mm-hmm. In the WWE, he was known as Dean Ambrose. If I meet him, I may call him Dean, because that's predominantly how I knew him as.
Right.
But now he
doesn't play that character anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might be a slip of the tongue in that case.
If you meet Kelsey Grammer, you might call him Frazier.
I tried very hard not to. I almost addressed him as Dr. Crane.
Oh, man.
That would have been a fun roundtable.
That would have been, yeah.
Because not only was it just a regular one-on-one interview, but it was a roundtable with other journalists. So there would be people there to call me out on it.
You'd be the only idiot at the roundtable who called him Dr. Crane. All right, well, shall we send this one home?
Sure. Yeah, do you have time for a quick nail salon and a tan?
I mean, nail salon, sure, but I'll save tan for next episode.
Fair enough. All right, party people. I hope you enjoyed our analysis of Meet Cute, which you can find on Peacock, starring the incomparable Kaley Cuoco and also Pete Davidson.
Yes.
Yes. And us on the internet. You can find us. I'm at Silverio20 on Instagram and Twitter.
I am at Indecisionist on Twitter and at The Indecisionist on Instagram.
Special thanks to April Moralba for our podcast art, and to Marlon Longan of Marlon and the Shakes for our amazing theme song. This has been an Indecisionist production.
If you want to join the conversation, you can use the hashtag #time2party. That's time, the number 2 party.
As well as time the number 2 party, all spelled out. Thank you, Warwick.
And until next time, when we bring you more tangents, shenanigans, and tomfoolery, be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes. Dana.